Welcome back to my channel, and if it's your first time here, welcome. Today I'm going to be showing you how I do these really cute tips on my nails. I got them from Amazon and they're really easy to use, and the thing that I love about them most is that they're already shaped. So all you have to do is put them on and then throw a little dip powder over them and you don't have to shape them. So I learned this method from BrooklyBlushCo, and I will link her video in the description and in the cards. I just modified her method slightly to fit for me, and I'm using Vividip's base as my glue. So admittedly, the reason I am showing you the middle finger on my right hand, my non-dominant hand, is because this one was crooked and I actually soaked it off, and so this is my second try. That's one really good thing about doing these tips, is if for some reason you don't like them, they soak off really easy because all you're really doing is dissolving that glue and then you're able to try again. And then the other thing that I really like is using the Vividip base. It's slow drying, so you see I have time to really kind of like manipulate it around my finger to make sure that it's straight, and then I just let it dry. So once I have it where I want it, I then put a little bit more glue on the seam and then it dries for a little bit. So here I am, I'm back, and I just have to pull off this little tab thing at the top. It's really easy to do, you just have to kind of twist it off, and I'm going to shape a little bit and make the nail flush with my finger. So really what I love about this is these are supposed to be stiletto tip nails, but I wanted more of like an almond, I guess, but not full on point. So I just make the tip of it a little bit rounder than what it is if it was more pointy, and then I just blend that tip in with my finger. And I'm being careful not to hit my nail and just doing the tip. So you can tell when it's blended in when you run your finger across the tip, and it's flush, it's smooth with your finger bed and your tip. So just doing that, and then I'm going to dip in some natural powder so I can build up that nail, and then I have a foundation to do dip powder on top. The natural that I'm using is Kiara Sky Natural. I really like this. I really don't even mind just having the natural powder on my nails sometimes. So with these tips, it kind of looks nice. It kind of looks like an American manicure, I guess you would call it. So this is my attempt at building an apex. It doesn't really work, honestly. This was the first time I applied these tips. By the second time I had applied them, I was no longer doing this apex nonsense. I decided it was much easier just to put dip powder across the seam, but not going all the way down to my cuticle, because I didn't want to put any bulk near my cuticle, but I wanted it to have a nice structure where the length of the nail is. So doing these again, I just do a dip or two almost to the cuticle and then a full dip. But in this video I'm showing you I'm doing one strip down the middle and then one partial dip. I guess you would call this maybe like a 3/4 dip, and then I'll do a full dip. And then there is a lot of drying time in between that I cut out. Originally though, this video was only 14 minutes long from start to finish with all the drying time. So here I'm showing you my new Triple D brush. It's so soft and fluffy. I love it. It's like new to her line, and I just brush off the bottom side of my hand with it because when you dip your finger in, it's like a fine powder all over. And then once it's dry, I take my stiff brush and I brush it off, and now I'm doing the third dip. If you're like me and you're not good at shaping your nails, something like this is really, really helpful. I also have done the full coverage tips. If you want to see a tutorial on that, I will link that. That's on Kayla's channel. She turned me on to the full coverage tips. It's another way that you can get away with having a longer nail with a pretty nail shape without having to do the shaping. So I really love these two methods, and I recently purchased some coffin tips that are similar to these stiletto ones that I'm going to try to see if I can get the same effect with like a more square nail. So now that I've gone in the 3 times with the 3 dips, I'm going to activate and then file and buff. I leave all of that in and I will let you watch that. So I will be back when I start to describe some filing and some buffing. All right, I'm back. So you saw me kind of like tap on my nail to make sure that the activator was making the nail hard. And now I'm just doing some very, very light shaping. I am a notorious over shaper, so I have to just very lightly shape around the nail a very little bit. And now I'm buffing. So the buffing works for the most part on the surface of the nail, but then around my cuticles I like to blend it just a little bit more with my eFile. You'll see that in just a moment. So here I am just making the nail smooth, and it's nice and thin also, which is also really nice, but it's hard to get in the corners. So that's where the eFile comes in. This is also my non-dominant hand that I'm using to buff, so I do some really weird things where I'll hold the buffer and then rub my right hand into it. Same thing with the file, it just makes it a little bit easier, but you know, when you're doing your non-dominant hand, you're in survival mode. So here I am just taking care of the edges because there was just a little bit of blending that needed to happen, and I'm using my safety bit, so as I'm getting really close to my skin and blending it in, I can touch my skin without it cutting me because it's a safety bit. And that's really all it took, just a very quick light eFile, and then I'm ready to go. So now these nails are really thin, they look really natural, and I'm going to put some gel polish on them and some peel base, and I'm gonna do my next mani. Thanks for watching.